Hello everyone, thank you for joining us at this news hour on Equinoxe television live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital Douala. I am Bable Jonathan. Some natives of Cameroon's economic capital Douala on the streets protesting and decrying the forceful eviction of inhabitants of Dikolo in Bali, Douala 1 subdivision, and they are condemning what they qualify as greed and manipulation by some individuals masterminding the forceful eviction exercise. The protesters said they are bent on stopping what they consider as violation of the people's rights. We're bringing to you details in this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television. And out of the country, at least 11 newborn babies dead in a fire incident in a maternity unit of a hospital in the western city of Tivaoune in Senegal. Stay with us. At least 7 persons now confirmed dead in a road accident on National Road number 3. The accident occurred in the locality of Mam in the central region of the Republic of Cameroon's Manjik and Gabriel has in details.
At the district hospital of Ngok Mapubi, family members of those involved in the ghastly road accident on the National Road number 3. This woman lost only brother in the road accident that caused the lives of 7 passengers. The young man had informed them that he was returning to base in Yaoundé to start preparing for the baccalaureate exams, but unfortunately ended his journey halfway. He was a final year student who was supposed to start writing the bac exam from Monday. We were home when we received a message from our little brother that he was coming to write exams. We were waiting for him impatiently before we got this sad news. The accident occurred some 30 kilometers away from Bumiebel, in a place known as Mam. It's the non-respect of circulation rules, mostly by our drivers, that cause accidents. Can you imagine that an interurban bus left Douala, passing through Bumiebel, taking a bend after a tire puncture, is running on over more than 140 kilometers per hour? You're not going to point fingers at the National Road number 3, but the uncivic nature of this driver.
Avec des vies des gens. Si leur vie ne leur coûte pas cher, celle des autres, vraiment, qu'ils la prennent au sérieux.
At the time of this report, the commander of the motorized brigade of Bumiebel confirmed the number of deaths that were recorded when the accident occurred.
Le bilan provisoire, parce qu'il y a des blessés.
For now, we have 7 deaths, 5 men and 2 women. 2 badly wounded have been transferred to other health centers, with more than 10 of them injured.
Il y a des différences entre. Jusqu'à l'heure où je vous parle, il n'y a pas eu une 8e personne décédée. Donc nous sommes encore officiellement à 7 morts, 5 hommes et 2 femmes.
The accident that took away 7 passengers was provoked by a tire puncture.
They took to the streets today on Cameroon's economic capital, the streets of Cameroon's economic capital, Douala, on the occasion of Assumption Day. And of course, they were protesting against the forceful eviction of some inhabitants of Dikolo in Bali, Douala 1 subdivision. They are natives of the country's economic capital, Douala, and they went decrying greed and manipulation by some individuals who are masterminding the forceful eviction exercise. And the protesters said they are bent on stopping the violation of the people's rights. Details with Malaglory.
On the street with uniforms signifying sadness, chanting songs of sorrow, these are the natives of Douala who have taken to the street to demonstrate against their forceful eviction and the demolition of Dikolo in Bali of the Douala 1 municipality. This comes after the natives organized a press conference to express their willful power to obtain back their lands. According to the people, the demolition was masterminded by an individual. Expressing their frustration, the people are ready to resist until the restoration of their land.
Malaglory reporting there, and the protest was taking place within the context of Ascension Day. They set aside to commemorate the ascension of Jesus Christ, Lord and Savior of the world, to heaven, body and soul. And these kind of protests have been going on repeatedly at close intervals of time in different parts of the country's economic capital. Douala, before the protest today, there was another one in the Japoma, in the Douala 3 subdivision, over a similar problem: forceful eviction, or announced forceful eviction of inhabitants from portions of land they have been occupying for several years. And land disputes have been provoking social unrest and threatening social peace in the Republic of Cameroon. Now to Lum in the Mongo Division, littoral region of the country, we're going to take a look at the difficulties faced by internally displaced persons forced out of their homes by violence in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, and are now seeking refuge in parts of the country. In that part of the littoral region of the country, many of them are facing difficulties because of the increase in prices of basic commodities, among other factors. Immaculate Faway reports.
The hike in the prices of basic commodities in Cameroon is not only affecting households, but also having a devastating impact on education. Food and nutrition students of Mary Bilingual Comprehensive High School in Lum, Mongo Division of the Littoral region, are facing challenges managing the budget given to them by their parents during the practical session.
Today is Open Business Day in Mary Bilingual Comprehensive High School. We could do many things, but things are too expensive in the market.
Because we budgeted money which the market, the money was insufficient because all prices of the products have been increased. For example, a liter oil that was being sold for 1,300 francs is being sold now for 1,500 francs. A kilogram of meat that was being sold for 2,500 francs is being sold for 3,200 francs.
The situation is further worsened by the fact that 1/3 of the students are IDPs, making it difficult for their parents to provide for all their needs.
We are from the northwest region. We are from the south, where the strike. So we are here. It's our mother, our parents are the ones struggling to pay our school fees. So it is not easy for us. Somebody like me, my mother, any of my parents are in the farm now struggling just for my school fees.
The majority of the students we have are internally displaced. They are here in Lum schooling, but their parents are very far. And some of them are saying that there is no possibility for them to even get to where their parents are, because even the transport they don't even have. So talk less of paying on school fees. So we just pray that we should end the year, but we are not ending the year with a smiling face, because the income we have had from the parents in terms of school fees is far below satisfaction.
Frequent power cuts is another glaring problem affecting the technical institution.
We have difficulties also on machines to use because of lack of electricity. Sometimes when we come to school, there will be no light for the students to work.
While waiting for the crisis to come to an end, the students are calling for the intervention of the government through the Ministry of Trade and Commerce to subsidize the prices of basic commodities and equally supply stable electricity in Lum.
Uncertainty looms over the academic future of some students, notably those preparing for official exams, particularly the baccalaureate exam in the French subsystem of education in the nation's political capital. Yaoundé, some of the students were worried, or still worried, about the fact that their names have not appeared on the list of registered candidates for the official examination, and the baccalaureate board officials, or better still officials of the Office du Baccalaureate, have reassured those students in some of the schools that their names will finally appear on the final list of candidates for the baccalaureate exam this year. Details in this report by Fomi Armstrong-Sanda.
Classes at the Collège Mongo Betin Yaoundé after rumors of a blank academic year for students of terminal, an equivalent of up-6 in the English subsystem of education. Information widely circulated that they were not going to sit in for the baccalaureate certificate examination was received with mixed feelings. Candidates who became afraid had to rush to the school, where they were assured by school officials that the information is fake. In fact, the list of students under the science series and those of art A4 series was already available and consulted by some of the students. One of the students, Adeline Bilois, talking to us, says she developed no fears after the information because they had already been given their individual timetables and had participated in the sports practicals of this examination. Collège Mongo Beti school officials blame the body in charge of organizing the examination, known in French as the Office du Baccalauréat du Cameroun, for errors noted in the first list of registered candidates. The principal, Francois Mbalanois, says this error led to the non-appearance of the names of some of his registered candidates on the provisional list. However, he says the error has been corrected and his school has been reassured by the Office du Baccalauréat du Cameroun that the final list contains the names of the 140 candidates of the school.
Cameroon's Minister of Employment and Vocational Training, Issa Chiruma Bakari, has urged the private sector to help the government reduce the high rate of youth unemployment in the country. He was speaking while in a meeting with chief executive officers of some private companies, and he highlighted the high rate of unemployment in the Republic of Cameroon, particularly among young people, as a major and a serious problem affecting social peace and, of course, the emergence drive of the Republic of Cameroon. Details with Equinoxe.
Meeting with heads of private enterprises in Douala, the Minister of Employment and Vocational Training, Issa Chiruma Bakari, said the BIA government is aware of the challenges they face, especially since outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020.
They are the ones who are creator of wealth and job. I underscore the fact that COVID-19 has destroyed lives indeed. It has destroyed a lot of employed jobs. My responsibility, which consists of helping, giving incentive to Cameroonians to wake up, never to surrender, to visit the private sector and to continue to emphasize the head of state policy in terms of development of our nation.
Acknowledging that thousands of Cameroonians are unemployed, with the need to nurse productive youth to enable attain the Head of State's 2035 emergence vision, Minister Chiruma implored CEOs of the over 220,000 enterprises operating in Cameroon to play their respective roles as the state's partner to train and employ jobless Cameroonians.
Today we have a lot of Cameroonians who are jobless because they don't have a trade. I want the general manager possibly to have a vocational training in finance to improve the skill and the craft of his people. Possibly, we would like him to do it. This, if it is done, I will ask him to open the doors to enable other Cameroonians to be empowered, to give them ability and capacity to acquire knowledge that they are going to use either in this bank in case they are recruited or elsewhere.
The Employment and Vocational Training Minister reassured heads of enterprises, his ministry in particular, will never let them down. He pledged the total support of government to keep the private sector resilient and in total faithful union with the public sector.
Out of Cameroon, 11 newborn babies have died in a fire at the maternity unit of a hospital in the western city of Tivaoune in Senegal. Initial reports suggest the fire was caused by a short circuit and then spread quickly. 3 babies were saved, said the city's mayor, Demba Diop Sai, and the families rushed to the Mame Abdou Sai Dabak hospital to find out if their babies had survived. Some were overcome with grief when they heard the news. Mustafa Sisi told the press that his 3-week-old nephew Mohammed was among the dead, and of course the hospital had been newly inaugurated, according to AFP, citing local media reports. President Macky Sall has declared 3 days of national mourning to their mothers and their families. He expressed his deepest sympathy, and he wrote this on Twitter. Kaba, a mother of 10-day-old baby, reacts as she sits outside the hospital, and she was really lamenting over the death of her 10-day-old baby in that fire incident in the country. And the incident has sparked a wave of indignation on social media over the state of the country's healthcare provision. Opposition Member of Parliament Mamadou Lamine Diallo criticized the government, tweeting, "More babies burned in a public hospital. This is unacceptable." Rights group Amnesty International has urged the government to create an independent commission of inquiry to determine responsibility and punish the culprits, no matter the level they are at in the state apparatus. The country director Sidi Gassama said in a tweet, and this information released by the country's director, Said Gassama, indicating that there should be an inquiry to determine the culprits, those responsible for that fire incident that has killed 11 newborn babies in that health amenity in Senegal. And that's it for the first part of this newscast. Coming up next, Talking Point. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Talking Point. Our guest today is Marcellus Mbamek. He's an expert in issues concerning studying abroad, the managing director of Globus Education Systems. You're welcome.
Thank you, Babylon.
All right, with you, we're going to be discussing issues about studying abroad. And you may be watching us today and you are preparing for the next academic year, or you're preparing your child or your children for the next academic year, and you're thinking about studying abroad. You're thinking about sending your children to study abroad. We're bringing to you insights about this in this edition of Talking Point. First of all, Marcel Mamek, what are the destinations? Tell us about the destinations of education abroad for Cameroonians and Africans at large.
Yes, we have the United States of America, Canada, United Kingdom, Ireland, France, Germany, India, Malaysia, Australia, and Antigua for those who want to study medicines.
Now, the opportunities, they are certainly varied and really edge-creating opportunities as far as these destinations are concerned, as far as the universities, the institutions of study in these countries which is just cited concerned.
Yes, the destinations that we cover, there are actually 12 countries, and we represent over 150 institutions around the globe in these countries. So the destinations generally for the students will depend on exactly what the student wants to pursue in their academic career.
All right, tell us the destinations and the careers or the fields of study, science, mathematics, literature, general subjects and things like that.
Yes, the world is is designed in a way that certain areas are famous for certain careers. So if a student was looking at pursuing science and engineering, we generally encourage them to go to India or to Malaysia. But if a student was interested to do something like engineering in the PhD area, then we usually advise them to go to the United States, Canada, or United Kingdom. If a student was looking at doing something like history, literature, and so on, we generally encourage them, first of all, to start from Cameroon and only pursue that kind of study at the level of master's or PhD. And most often we'll advise them to go to the United Kingdom.
So, if somebody wants to study abroad, is thinking about these various destinations, how should he or she go about, obtaining accreditation, or better still, obtaining registration, acceptance by these universities? What are the steps that the student is supposed to follow?
Yes, first of all, if a student was looking at studying out of the country, the first thing you need to do is make sure you have all your academic documents that you have achieved so far. Because most often you find students who have studied, graduated like 2-3 years, they don't even have their certificates with them. So the first thing is that they should make sure they have all their academic documents, their transcripts, and their certificates. Once they have all those certificates put in place, they should also be sure to have a passport. Then once they have all of that and they approach us, then we'll be able to do what we call education counseling. During the counseling session, we'll try to find out what are their personal interests, what are their financial backgrounds, then we'll be able to advise what options is best for them. From that level, if we are able to agree on exactly how they will want to continue, then they will drop all those documents in our office. We will scan them and send them to the specific university that we'll have that discussion about. That is the process. It's a very simple process. Once the documents are treated in our office, we transfer them to our partner institutions. Then there are specific time durations for certain universities, and we inform them to let them know, okay, this process is going to take this time. Then they will just have to wait, and once that period elapses, they will have what they call the conditional offer letters.
What are the best options in terms of fields of study?
Come again, please.
What are the best options in terms of fields of study?
No, you can't say the best options in terms of field of study. It depends on the individual. What is good for A might not be good for B. So whatever options they have decided to pursue, then we'll go with that. But we generally advise students to look into areas of studies where the dynamics of the world is changing, and there are certain areas that are no longer the job market is not easily absorbing them. So we are advising students to get into areas of study that they'll be able to get a job as soon as they come out of school. So we advise them to get into mostly what they call the STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics area. Those are the areas that we generally encourage students to go into now.
And what are the requirements? What are the requirements? If a student wants to study abroad today and is looking at those fields which you just mentioned, what should the student have to be able to, or to hope to have access to some of those universities?
Yes, if a student is looking at doing courses in science and engineering, then they must be currently studying, or must have studied mathematics, physics, biology, and chemistry. Those are the basic subjects. But if a student did not have a previous background in these subjects, sometimes in some universities we could admit them and they could go into what we call the foundation program. Usually the foundation programs take into consideration what they had studied previously, and some foundation programs might take 6 months, others might take 1 year, depending on the subjects that they had not pursued previously, but it usually takes maximum a year. So once they pursue the foundation program, then they might be able to get into areas where they had not previously studied before. But there are some areas that no matter whatever you want to do, you must have pursued those subjects. Like if you want to do medicine, we are not able to admit you into a medicine school if you have not done biology, chemistry, physics, and mathematics. Most of the universities will insist on that, and some also we also look at the grades. The grades also is sometimes a determining factor. No. But if a student was looking at something like in IT, okay, if a student did something like history, biology, literature, or whatever area, or history, and wanted to do IT, it is possible they can get into the IT field, and starting with the foundation program.
Now, is there a specific level of academic performance that generally guarantees access or admission into those foreign universities?
Yes, of course. You know, they always say those who work hard in school are usually rewarded. So most students, when they're in high school, they advise them to study hard. They think that it is for somebody's interest, it is for their own interest. Those who usually have the A grades, no matter what university you apply for, once you have the A grades, your admission is sure. It's 100% sure.
All right. Now, looking at the fact that the students are moving practically into a new area where they will certainly discover a lot of things, and definitely challenges that will crop up on the way. How should they go about, braving the challenges? What are some of the challenges in the first place, and then how to brave those challenges in order to succeed? Because gaining admission and then moving abroad to study is one thing, and succeeding is another thing.
Yes, that is one of the advantages when you come through us, because when you come through us, most of those challenges you generally don't face them, because one, we accompany the students in the whole process, from the admission process. We guide them through the visa procedures. When they get their visas, we guide them on how to get their ticket. Upon arrival on campus, we link up directly with the international students department, where someone is picking them up from the airport. There is someone to guide them on how to go about the procedures in the university. So generally, most of the students don't face a lot of challenges like before, because the schools have put in place persons to assist them. So they don't generally face challenges, especially our students going to Asia, because all our schools in Asia, they provide accommodation facilities on campus. So the students basically just live from their rooms, from their hostels to the classrooms, and everything is on campus. So they generally don't face any challenge. More to that, those campuses, they meet students from other countries. We have universities that have nationals from 120 different countries. So it is also like a wonderful opportunity for them to interact with people from other countries, and they get to learn new cultures as well.
Recently, in an interview with the state media, you talked about why you decided, or what inspired you to put up this platform, Globus Education Systems, to facilitate access to foreign universities. And you highlighted the presence of charlatans, the presence of unscrupulous individuals who are operating in that area of studying abroad and extorting huge sums of money to individuals. Tell us about that.
Yes, this is actually true. taking into consideration my own experience. As I said during that interview, when I graduated from high school, my goal was also to study abroad. So I met several people that I tried to walk through them to help me in the process of pursuing my studies abroad. It never worked out. I lost a lot of money in the process, and I ended up staying in the country, and I only went back to study abroad after about 12, 13 years after I had graduated from high school, because at that time I got involved in other things. I only went out to pursue my studies at that time because I was able to manage things by myself. So I realized that education is not an area where people should be using to make money from people. So these are the things that pushed me into all of this, and we are trying to correct that, because people always have this notion that to travel abroad, you need to meet someone to tell you, okay, you need to give me 2 million, you need to give me 3 million. That is not the procedure. We are trying to tell people, if you are interested in studying abroad, it is a process. That process must be followed, and it has a time that it will mature. So they should not just believe walking somewhere, meeting someone, the person says, this is the amount you give me, and in 2 months you travel. No. Education is not like that. Nobody gives visa. Visas are issued by the embassies, and the consular service and the consular officers are the ones that make decisions on if they should grant you visa or not. So I'm trying to educate the public to understand that visas are only issued by embassies and in the consular sections.
Now, about the cost of studying abroad, that's an area where there are often stumbling blocks, obstacles to many who want to study abroad. Tell us about the costs in different countries where moderate families or low-income earners can find a way how they can obtain a scholarship, a full scholarship, how they can obtain a partial scholarship, and so on.
Yes, I usually tell people that education is not cheap. People always think that to study abroad is something cheap. It is not cheap at all. You know, people always believe that because they go to the university, they are paying 50,000, and so if they wanted to study abroad, maybe they are looking at spending 500, 1 million. No, I always tell them the 50,000 they are paying in the university is because the state is subsidizing their education. If you wanted to know exactly how much the state is spending on a single student in Cameroon, it's a lot of money. So if you want to study abroad, you should also think of spending a lot of money to study abroad. That decision of studying abroad is based on your financial background or your family background. So we do not decide where people should go. When you come to us, we only give you the figures that are available. You make your decision. But the advice we usually give to average families is, if you are looking at getting a good quality education, then you should be looking at going to Asia, like India, where we understand that their system is well regulated and the cost of study is cheaper than any other destinations that we are representing. If a student was looking at partial scholarship, we usually have partial scholarships in India all around the year. We usually have it. If they wanted to have fully funded scholarships in countries like the US, Canada, United Kingdom, Ireland, or France, then fully funded scholarships are made available to us at certain periods of the year. And sometimes we even have the fully funded scholarships, but at the end of the day, the students might not get it because the numbers are limited. Sometimes also the universities themselves that advertise the fully funded scholarships, sometimes they end up not awarding it because the university itself is not the one funding the scholarship. They rely on partners. Sometimes because of the COVID-19, some partners are not able to meet up with their obligations. So we usually tell parents, don't put too much emphasis on the fact that you want to depend on fully funded scholarship. If you can raise something small, then look at getting a partial scholarship to India, to Malaysia, or to Antigua.
And most of the
we're also looking at having a fully funded scholarship. As I always advise, please they should make sure they score very high grades. You meet somebody, sometimes I feel so embarrassed. People walk into my office and they say they are looking for fully funded scholarship. You want to look at their GCE level and A level. Maybe they're having 2E grades, or they graduated from the university with a second class upper division 2.2 GPA. It's so embarrassing that they have it in mind that someone somewhere would decide to sponsor them with that kind of grades. You have to be a highly performing student before you ever think of getting a fully funded scholarship.
All right, quickly before we go, apart from having high marks, high grades, what are the other requirements that can facilitate the process of obtaining either a partial or a fully funded scholarship?
Basically, it's just about making sure you have all your certificates from your schools. Those are the major requirements. Once you have that, you have your passport, then you are able to get the partial scholarship. Like the students who are writing the GCE this year, we are bringing up a package whereby after the GCE and the back, all the students that are coming out who are interested in studying, we are providing 50% scholarships for those who want to study in India. In all areas of studies, we are providing that scholarship end of this academic year for those who will be successful in the GCE and in the baccalaureate.
Right, Marcellus Mbamek, expert in issues concerning studying abroad, managing director of Globus Education Systems. Thank you for joining us today. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today's edition of the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinoxe Television. Goodbye.
Equinoxe Télévision, au-delà de l'image, nous rendons compte.
If you suspect you may have a coronavirus infection, please call your healthcare provider in advance and let them know you are coming. This can help them be prepared. WHO recommends preventive